The stars burned quietly above a silent world. Ships moved in the void, thousands of them, surrounding a single blue planet. To the aliens, Earth was nothing more than a dangerous spark in the dark, a place that had risen too quickly, too violently. The Council of the United Races had already spoken. Humanity was a threat. But the humans had not been told. They lived their normal lives, working, dreaming, fighting among themselves, while far beyond the atmosphere, judgment had already been passed. The great alien fleets had gathered. Their ships were vast, black silhouettes against the glow of distant suns. Some looked like floating cities, others like monstrous beasts made of steel. Hundreds of species had set aside centuries of old hatred to stand together. They had fought each other for ages, but for the first time in history, they were united. United against one enemy. United against humanity. The alien leaders stood inside a massive chamber carved into an asteroid. The walls glowed with symbols, the voices of different species echoed like thunder and whispers together. Some had insect-like faces with sharp clicking jaws, others had smooth silver skin that reflected light like a mirror. All of them agreed on one thing: humanity could not be allowed to rise. They breed too fast. A scaled leader hissed, his golden eyes unblinking. They fight too hard. Already, their ships challenge our patrols. They lie, they cheat, they adapt, another voice growled, coming from a creature with 6 arms and glowing veins across its chest. They learn too quickly. If left unchecked, they will surpass us all. The chamber fell silent as the High Speaker of the Council raised her long arms. Her form was tall and thin, her eyes burning like small stars. "Then it is decided," she said coldly. "We will erase them. Humanity will be nothing but a whisper in forgotten dust." The fleets prepared. Engines hummed, weapons armed, and armies sharpened their blades. The world below had no warning. Earth's skies would soon burn with fire. But there was one problem. Not all aliens agreed. A secret had been buried for centuries, one so dangerous that speaking it meant death. A secret that, if revealed, could turn the entire war upside down. It began with whispers among soldiers. A small voice carried through the ranks of the fleets. A story of something the Council had hidden. Something about Earth. Something about where humans had truly come from. And then, one human appeared among them. He was not on Earth. He was not supposed to be there. The aliens stared when he stepped into their chamber, calm, steady, unafraid. A single human, in the heart of the United Fleet, where no human should ever have been able to walk. The soldiers hissed, shouted, raised weapons. But the man did not move. His eyes scanned the alien leaders with a cold fire, the kind of fire that had terrified generals on Earth for centuries. "You call us dangerous," the man said slowly, his voice steady in the massive hall. "You call us a threat to your kind. But you don't tell the truth." The High Speaker's eyes narrowed. "Human," she spat, the word twisting like poison. "You should not exist here. You are trespassing in the place of judgment." The man did not blink. He raised his hand, and from his wrist a small device flickered with blue light. Symbols glowed into the air, symbols the aliens recognized, but wished they hadn't. It was their own history, their own records. The chamber went silent. "You hide this," the man said, his voice echoing louder now. "You unite against us because you fear what happens if your people learn the truth. You fear what happens if the galaxy learns what humanity really is." The leaders shifted uneasily. The soldiers in the chamber looked at one another, confusion sparking in their alien eyes. None of them knew what this human was speaking about. None of them knew why their commanders looked afraid. The man's words grew sharper, cutting through the silence. "You say humans are dangerous. You say we are too strong, too fast, too clever. But tell them why." The device flickered again. And suddenly, the hologram changed. It showed images, images that made soldiers gasp, images that made old leaders tremble. The aliens saw a war fought long before Earth had discovered fire. They saw humans standing not on Earth, but among stars, fighting side by side with alien races. They saw humanity already there, already powerful, already something more than what the council claimed. The soldiers cried out in shock. Their jaws clicked, their wings buzzed, their claws clenched. None of them had known this. They had been told Earth was young, that humans were weak, dangerous only because of their speed. But the truth was far older. The man lowered his hand, and the hologram faded into darkness. His voice dropped low, steady, calm. You united against us. But you united because you were afraid of your own lie. You fear what will happen when the galaxy remembers what you tried to erase. For the first time, the chamber was filled not with unity, but with doubt. The High Speaker trembled with rage. "Silence him," she commanded. But no soldier moved. Not one. They only stared at the human, the single figure who had walked into the heart of their fleet and revealed the secret their leaders had buried for centuries. The war was about to begin. But now, everything had changed. The council chamber trembled with silence. Thousands of alien eyes fixed on the lone human standing in their midst. No human should have been here. No human ship could have crossed their guarded borders. Yet here he was, calm, steady, unafraid. Whispers filled the chamber like buzzing storms. Soldiers shifted uneasily. Leaders clenched their claws, their jaws, their hands. Something was wrong. The truth had slipped into the open, and once truth escaped, it could not be caged again. The High Speaker tried to regain control. Her thin arms rose high, and her voice thundered. "Do not listen to this intruder. He is a liar. He twists history with stolen tricks. Humanity is nothing but vermin, a danger to all worlds." But the words fell weak. Too many eyes had seen the hologram. Too many hearts felt doubt. The council had worked for centuries to hide that history, to bury it under lies. But one human had shattered it in a single moment. The man stepped forward slowly. His boots echoed against the chamber floor. Each step was heavy, like thunder rolling closer. He did not raise a weapon. He did not need to. His voice itself was sharper than any blade. "You fear us because you know what we are," he said. "You call us dangerous, but it is not because of what we may become. It is because of what we once were." Gasps filled the air. Soldiers who had sworn loyalty to the council looked to their commanders, demanding answers with silent eyes. Leaders avoided their gaze. For the first time in centuries, the unity of the alien races cracked. One soldier broke the silence. He was tall, with armor of chitin and glowing green eyes. His voice clicked with sharp sounds. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did humans once walk among the stars before us? Did you hide this?" The High Speaker's face twisted with fury. "Silence! You dare question the council." But the soldier did not lower his head. His mandibles clicked. Others around him stirred, murmuring, their voices rising. Doubt had turned into fire. The human saw it. He knew the seed had been planted. And he was not finished. "You gathered your fleets to destroy us," he said slowly, looking from leader to leader. "But tell me this, why did you need to unite? Why did enemies who hated each other for centuries suddenly stand together? Was it really because of fear, or because of guilt?" The chamber shuddered. His words struck harder than any weapon. The human's device flickered again, casting new light into the room. More images appeared, scenes buried even deeper. The aliens saw battlefields among the stars, ruins of cities that no longer existed, broken monuments carved with symbols of both humans and alien races. Together, they saw humans and aliens standing side by side, not as enemies but as allies, their banners raised together against some other enemy lost to time. One leader staggered back. His scaled skin paled as he recognized the symbols. His ancestors had carved those very marks. His people had once fought beside humans. The truth slammed into him like a blade. His council had lied to him his entire life. The High Speaker's scream shook the chamber. Enough. This trick ends now. Her hand rose, summoning guards. But when the soldiers came forward, their weapons did not point at the human. Their weapons turned toward the leaders. Chaos erupted. Some soldiers shouted, some raised their rifles, others froze in disbelief. The chamber became a storm of fear, anger, and doubt. For the first time, the council was not obeyed without question. The human stood still in the storm. His eyes scanned the soldiers, not with hatred but with calm determination. "You are not our enemies," he said. "You never were. Your leaders fear us because they fear what you will learn. They fear you will remember the truth, that humanity once stood with you, not against you." The soldiers hesitated. Their claws trembled. Their wings buzzed. Their hands shook on their rifles. The truth was like fire spreading through dry grass, impossible to stop now. The High Speaker's voice broke with desperation. "Kill him. Do it now." But no soldier moved. One by one, their eyes turned toward her, and for the first time, she felt fear. True fear. Not of humans, but of her own people. The man lowered his device. His voice softened, but the chamber carried every word. "You wanted to erase us. But you cannot erase truth. You cannot erase what we were. You cannot erase what we are becoming again." The silence that followed was heavier than any warship. The human's figure, small compared to the alien giants, seemed to tower over them all. And then, alarms screamed. The chamber's walls shook. A deep rumble filled the asteroid base. The fleets outside stirred in panic. Something was moving in space. Something massive. The alien leaders looked to the skies, their fear growing. The human only smiled faintly. "You gathered your fleets to destroy Earth," he said softly. "But you never asked what Earth was preparing for." The chamber froze. Outside, the darkness of space rippled. A shadow emerged, vast and silent, dwarfing even the greatest alien ships. Lights flickered across its hull. The soldiers gasped, some in awe, some in terror. The human's words echoed like thunder. "You wanted a war. Now you will see humanity's answer." The alarms screamed louder, echoing through the asteroid chamber. Red lights flashed against the stone walls, painting the alien council in blood-like color. Soldiers rushed to the viewports, their eyes wide with disbelief. Out in the void, something vast moved. At first, it seemed like a shadow, a trick of light, a dark cloud drifting between stars. But then the shape grew clearer. Metallic, massive, stretching across the black sky. One ship, larger than anything the galaxy had seen in ages. It slid from the darkness like a titan awakening. Its surface was scarred yet shining, covered with strange markings no alien could read. Weapons lined its hull, towers of steel and light pointing in every direction. And at its core, a single burning symbol glowed, the flag of Earth. Gasps shook the chamber. Soldiers pressed against the glass. Leaders trembled. They had gathered thousands of warships to destroy humanity, but this single vessel looked strong enough to stand against them all. The High Speaker's voice cracked as she shouted, "Impossible! Humanity does not possess such ships. They do not have this technology." But the human standing in the chamber did not move. His eyes burned with quiet fire. "You still do not understand," he said. "You think we are young. You think we are weak. But the truth is, humanity remembers. We have not forgotten everything you tried to bury. We are not alone. We are never alone." The massive ship outside rotated slowly, its engines glowing with power that shook the fleets around it. Smaller ships, human escorts, emerged from behind it, dozens, then hundreds, moving in perfect formation. They were not crude metal like the Council expected. They were sleek, fast, deadly. Panic rippled through the alien fleets. Captains shouted orders. Weapons powered up. Soldiers scrambled to battle stations. The unity they had built for centuries was cracking under the weight of one sight, the return of something they thought impossible. Inside the chamber, leaders argued in rage and fear. "Launch the attack," one screamed. "No. Hold fire," shouted another. Their voices clashed like broken thunder. The human raised his voice above the storm. "You call us dangerous because we fight. But you forget why we fight. We fight because we must. We fight because we protect what is ours. And now," his words sharpened like a blade, "now we fight because you left us no choice." Suddenly, the massive ship outside opened its hangar bays. From within, swarms of smaller craft poured into the void. They were sleek fighters, their wings glowing blue with strange energy. They cut through the darkness like arrows of light, forming a shield wall in front of the giant vessel. The alien fleets hesitated. Thousands of guns were locked, ready to fire. Yet no commander gave the order. Fear was stronger than hatred now. One soldier whispered, his voice trembling. "They said humans were new to the stars. They said Earth was weak. But this is not weakness." The high speaker slammed her staff against the floor, her fury breaking through her fear. "Do not be fooled. That ship is nothing but a relic, stolen and repaired. They cannot stand against us all." But even as she shouted, doubt ate at her words. If it was only a relic, why did its presence feel so heavy, so commanding, like a ghost of wars long forgotten? The human looked at her calmly. "You know what that ship is. You remember its name, even if you dare not speak it. It fought in the old wars, when humans stood with you. And now, it fights again." The leaders froze. Soldiers turned to their commanders, waiting, demanding the truth. The man's voice dropped low, carrying the weight of centuries. "That ship is not just a relic. It is a legend. And it has returned to remind you, humanity never dies." The chamber fell into silence so deep it seemed the air itself stopped moving. Outside, the giant vessel lit its engines fully. The stars around it dimmed under its fire. And then, a message echoed across the void. Not from the council. Not from the fleets. From the human ship itself. Its voice was deep, powerful, and old. "This is the Aegis. Humanity stands." The words spread like lightning, carried to every ship, every soldier, every captain in the alien fleets. The name struck something ancient in their memories, a ghost of history they had tried to erase. Many froze in fear. Others whispered prayers. Some dropped their weapons. But the high speaker did not yield. Her rage grew hotter than her fear. "Destroy them," she screamed. "Erase them now, before the lie spreads further." Her words cracked like a whip. Some commanders obeyed, their ships turning weapons toward the Aegis. Lights flared, cannons charged, energy crackled across the fleets. The first shots were seconds away. The human inside the chamber looked at the soldiers surrounding him. Many were trembling. Many were waiting. He raised his hand, pointing toward the viewport where the massive vessel stood like a giant protector. "Choose now," he said, his voice hard as stone. "Obey the lies of your leaders, or stand with the truth you have seen with your own eyes." The soldiers froze, torn between fear and belief, loyalty and doubt. The chamber filled with silence once again, silence heavier than any explosion. And then, outside in the void, the first alien ship fired. A beam of energy cut across the stars, striking at the Aegis. The battle had begun. The first shot ripped through the void like lightning. The alien beam struck the Aegis with a thunderous flash, lighting up the blackness of space. The fleets held their breath, waiting to see the result. But the giant human ship did not break. It did not burn. The energy faded across its armored hull like water against stone. Shields shimmered, glowing blue for a heartbeat, then vanishing again as if nothing had happened. A silence heavier than death fell over the fleets. The human inside the chamber let a faint smile touch his lips. "You see, that ship was built for wars greater than this. You cannot break it with a single shot. You cannot break it with 1,000. The alien leaders shouted in rage. The high speaker screamed, "Fire again! All ships! Fire everything you have!" The void exploded. Thousands of alien cannons lit up, hurling fire, beams, and missiles toward the Aegis. The darkness turned into burning light as the united fleets unleashed their fury. The sky became a storm. Inside the chamber, soldiers pressed against the glass, watching the impossible battle unfold. Some cheered, some trembled, some whispered prayers to gods they barely remembered. The Aegis did not run. It advanced. Through the storm of weapons, it moved with steady power, its engines glowing like a rising sun. Missiles crashed against its shields, beams scorched its armor, explosions tore the void, but still it came forward. Then, for the first time, it answered. Light burst from its cannons, blinding and pure. Beams sharper than blades cut across the fleets. Alien warships shattered in seconds, their hulls torn apart like paper. Explosions lit the stars. Dozens of ships fell in the first strike. Gasps filled the chamber. Even the high speaker froze. The united fleets, armies gathered from across the galaxy, were breaking before one human ship. But the human in the chamber spoke calmly. His voice carried like iron. This is what you feared. Not our numbers. Not our worlds. You feared our memory. You feared our return. More fighters poured from the Aegis, their wings glowing as they cut through alien formations. They moved in perfect unity, every pilot fighting as though guided by one mind. Alien fleets that had once thought themselves invincible crumbled under their speed. The high speaker slammed her staff down, her voice cracking with rage and desperation. Cowards! Do not fear them. You are more. You are stronger. Kill them, or your worlds will burn. But her words rang hollow. In the chamber, many soldiers no longer looked at her. Their eyes were fixed on the human. They saw his calm, his strength, his truth. Some lowered their weapons. Some stepped back. The unity of the fleets was dying as fast as their ships outside. One alien commander's voice broke through the fleet comms. This is wrong. We were told humans were weak. But this is not weakness. This is something else. We were lied to. Other voices rose. The Council betrayed us. We fight a war of shadows. Why are we dying for their lies? The fleets faltered. Ships stopped firing. Some even turned their weapons away, unsure of who their enemy truly was. The Aegis pressed forward, unstoppable. Inside the chamber, the human's gaze turned to the high speaker. Your time is ending, he said. You built your empire on lies. Now your lies burn. The high speaker trembled with fury, her star-bright eyes glowing with hate. No, she hissed. Humanity will never rise. Not while I live. She raised her hand, and from hidden walls, more guards rushed into the chamber. Dozens of them, armored and armed, their weapons blazing with energy. They charged the human, their voices a storm of war cries. But before they reached him, something impossible happened. Several alien soldiers, those who had once been ordered to kill him, turned. They raised their own rifles, but not at the human. They fired at the Council's guards. Energy blasts filled the chamber as alien fought alien, chaos exploding in the very heart of the Council. The high speaker screamed in horror. Traitors! You dare betray your Council! But the soldiers who had turned did not stop. Their voices were hard, filled with fire. We do not betray the Council, one shouted. The Council betrayed us. The chamber became a battlefield. Weapons fired, bodies fell, smoke filled the air. And through it all, the human stood calm, unmoving, as if he had expected this moment all along. The high speaker's fury grew desperate. She turned to flee, her cloak whipping behind her. But the human's voice stopped her cold. Run if you wish, he said, his voice carrying over the battle. But you cannot outrun the truth. And you cannot outrun humanity. Her steps faltered. For the first time, true fear flickered in her burning eyes. Outside, the Aegis tore through the fleets, its cannons thunderous, its fighters relentless. Alien ships scattered like leaves in a storm. The war the Council had promised was slipping away, their unity shattering with every passing second. Inside, soldiers began to chant, low at first, then louder. It was not a word in their own languages. It was one they had heard from the human, a word heavy with meaning. Humanity. Humanity. The chamber shook with the sound, a chant that rolled like thunder. The high speaker's face twisted in rage and fear. And the human looked at her with eyes that seemed to see centuries ahead. "This is only the beginning," he said. The chamber was fire and chaos. Smoke curled along the carved stone walls as alien soldiers fought one another, rifles flashing, blades cutting through the air. The voices of rebellion echoed louder than the orders of the Council. The human stood in the center, untouched by the storm. His eyes were sharp, watching not with fear, but with certainty, as if every moment was unfolding exactly as he had known it would. Outside the asteroid, the void burned brighter. The Aegis led the charge through the alien fleets, its cannons ripping warships apart. Each blast shook the galaxy's faith in the Council. Alien vessels that had once sworn loyalty began to drift away from the battle, engines dimming as captains refused to throw their lives into the fire. Some ships even turned to defend the Aegis, their guns blazing not at humanity, but at the fleets still clinging to the Council's command. The unity of the galaxy was breaking apart before their eyes. Inside the chamber, the high speaker's voice cracked as she screamed above the chaos. "Stop this madness. You are bound by the Council. You swore your loyalty." But her words only fueled the rage. A towering insectoid soldier raised his weapon, his mandibles clicking in fury. "We swore loyalty to protect the stars, not to drown them in lies." His shot missed the human and struck one of the Council guards instead. The chamber erupted into even fiercer combat. The high speaker's cloak whipped around her as she retreated toward a hidden passage. She tried to slip away, but the human's voice froze her in her tracks once more. "You can run," he said calmly, "but the truth follows you. Everywhere." Her body stiffened. For the first time in centuries, she felt cornered, not by weapons, but by the weight of her own deception. The human raised his wrist device again. Blue light flickered, casting new images into the smoke-filled chamber. This time, it was not only history, it was proof of the Council's betrayal. The soldiers paused, staring at the holograms. They saw records of planets stripped of life, worlds sacrificed to keep the Council's power unchallenged. They saw messages of lies fed to generations, hiding the truth of humanity's past. They saw evidence that the Council had always feared not humanity's rise, but humanity's return. Gasps filled the air. Even in the middle of battle, many soldiers froze, their weapons lowering, their eyes wide with horror. "You were told humanity is the danger," the man said. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a storm. "But look closely. Who truly burned your worlds? Who erased your history? Who built unity on the bones of lies?" The images of destruction flickered, showing alien cities shattered not by humans, but by the fleets of their own Council. The silence that followed was colder than space itself. A soldier dropped his weapon. Then, another. And another. One by one, the fighters in the chamber stopped, their eyes burning not with rage, but with betrayal. The high speaker saw her grip slipping away. Her voice rose in desperation. "They are lies. Forged images. Do not trust him." But her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Her soldiers saw it. Her commanders saw it. Everyone saw it. And the human's voice cut through her cries like steel. "You fear me because I am human. But you should fear yourselves, because you followed monsters, believing they were your saviors." The words shattered the last of their loyalty. The chamber erupted again, not in battle this time, but in rebellion. Soldiers turned fully against the Council guards, their fury unstoppable. The high speaker's protectors fell one by one until only she remained, cornered, trembling, her eyes wide with fury and fear. Outside, the fleets followed the same path. Whole squadrons broke from the Council's command, forming new lines beside the Aegis. Alien voices flooded the comms. We will no longer fight their war. The truth cannot be erased. We stand with humanity. The tide of battle shifted. What began as the destruction of Earth had become the rebellion of the galaxy. The Aegis roared through the fleets like a storm of legend, and wherever it passed, more ships defected, more soldiers turned, more lies crumbled. Inside the chamber, the human finally stepped toward the high speaker. The air grew heavy, the chamber silent again as soldiers, both old enemies and new allies, turned to watch. The high speaker backed away, her star-bright eyes burning with hate. You think you have won, human? She hissed. Even if I fall, you will never be safe. The Council's shadow runs deeper than you know. The man stopped, only a few steps away. His eyes locked onto hers, cold and unshaken. Then let the shadows come, he said softly. Because humanity has walked through darkness before, and we always come out stronger. The high speaker's jaw tightened. Rage and fear battled in her gaze. For centuries, she had ruled through lies and fear. But now, for the first time, she stood powerless. And then, an explosion shook the chamber. The walls cracked, stone and steel falling in chunks. Dust filled the air. Soldiers staggered as alarms screamed once again. The asteroid was under attack. But not from the Aegis. Another fleet had arrived. Through the cracks in the chamber, the soldiers saw new ships dropping out of warp. Their hulls were black, their weapons strange, their symbols unlike any known race. They were not part of the Council's unity. They were something else entirely. The human's eyes narrowed as he looked toward the stars. His voice was calm, but heavy. So, they return. The chamber filled with whispers. Who are they? What are those ships? Another enemy? But the human did not answer. His silence was enough. Whatever these new arrivals were, they were tied to the truth he had spoken, tied to the old wars the Council had tried to erase. The high speaker's trembling lips curled into a faint, broken smile. Yes, she whispered. Now you will see the true enemy. And your galaxy will burn with ours. The asteroid shook again as the new fleet emerged from the darkness of space. Ship after ship slipped out of the void, black and silent, their hulls reflecting no light. They looked like shadows carved into steel, like predators that had been waiting in the dark for centuries. The alien soldiers inside the chamber froze. Their rebellion halted as they stared through the fractured walls. Fear spread across their faces. These were not Council ships. These were not human ships. They were something far older, something none of them had ever seen. The high speaker's trembling voice carried across the chamber. You thought humanity was the danger, she hissed, her eyes glowing with broken triumph. But they were always waiting. The true enemy. The ones we could not defeat. The ones we tried to bury. The human's face hardened. He stepped closer to the shattered viewport, his eyes narrowing at the black fleet. His voice dropped low, steady, calm. They return, after all this time. The chamber filled with whispers. Who are they? What do they want? Why now? The high speaker's laughter cracked through the fear, sharp and bitter. You fools never knew. We did not unite to destroy humanity. We united to prepare for them. But you were too blind to see. Humanity is dangerous because they are tied to the ancient war. And now, the darkness wakes again. Outside, the black ships moved in silence, like hunters circling prey. Their designs were unlike anything in the galaxy. No windows, no banners, no signals. Just cold, smooth hulls and glowing red lines that pulsed like veins. The Aegis turned to face them, its cannons glowing, fighters regrouping around it. For the first time since its arrival, it seemed still. Watching. Waiting. Inside the chamber, the soldiers who had rebelled looked to the human for answers. Their voices were filled with both fear and desperation. Who are they? One asked. Tell us, shouted another. Are they from your kind? The man's gaze did not leave the void. His silence was heavy. Finally, his voice came, low and sharp. They are not human. But they know humanity. They always have. They are the ones who started the war you tried to erase. The ones we bled beside you to defeat. The reason humans first walked the stars. The soldiers gasped. Many staggered back as if struck by an unseen force. Their eyes turned to the high speaker, rage and betrayal burning bright. You knew, one soldier roared. You knew they were real. You lied to us. You said humanity was the threat. You made us fight the wrong enemy. The high speaker's voice shook, but she tried to hold her ground. We had no choice. If the truth spread, fear would tear the galaxy apart. Humanity was rising again, and if they remembered their connection to the old war, they would awaken the darkness. We tried to stop it. Her words only deepened the fury around her. Soldiers raised weapons, but none fired. Their eyes turned once more to the human. He finally faced them, his voice steady like iron. They are called the Veilborn. The chamber fell silent. They come from beyond your maps, beyond your stars. They move in shadows, feeding on fear, feeding on war. They do not conquer worlds. They erase them. Entire civilizations vanished under their hands. And when they came before, humanity stood with you to stop them. Gasps broke the silence. Some soldiers shook their heads in denial. Others fell to their knees, realization crashing over them. The humans' words cut deeper. Your council did not defeat them. You did not bury them. Humanity did. And when the war ended, you buried us too. You erased our part, erased our memory, because you feared us as much as you feared them. The soldiers' faces shifted from fear to shame, then to anger. They turned to the high speaker with eyes that no longer carried loyalty, only hate. But outside, the Black Fleet began to move. Their ships glided silently into formation. Red light rippled across their hulls. And then, without warning, one of them opened fire. A beam of dark energy cut through the void like a blade of shadow. It did not explode. It did not burn. It simply erased. An alien warship vanished in an instant, as though it had never existed. The fleet screamed in panic. Captains shouted, alarms roared, soldiers cried out. They had never seen such a weapon. The human's voice thundered across the chamber, pulling their fear into focus. Now you see. Humanity was never your enemy. We were your shield. And we are the only shield you will ever have. Outside, the Aegis opened fire. Its cannons roared, beams of blue light tearing into the black ships. Explosions bloomed across the void, but the Veilborn fleet moved like shadows, their ships reforming, their weapons striking again. The battle had changed. It was no longer humans against the Council. No longer aliens against humanity. It was the galaxy against the return of a forgotten nightmare. Inside, the human raised his hand toward the fleets, his voice hard and commanding. You wanted to unite the galaxy against humanity. But now, you must unite with humanity, or all of you will fall. The chamber shook again as another alien warship vanished under the Veilborn's weapons. Soldiers who had once called for humanity's death now looked at the man with new eyes, eyes that saw him not as an enemy, but as their only hope. And the high speaker, broken and defeated, whispered her last truth. You cannot win. You never could. That is why we lied. That is why we feared you. Humanity fights without end, but the Veilborn do not die. Her words hung like poison in the air. But the human did not flinch. His voice was steady, calm, and unbroken. Then we will show them, he said, that humanity does not die either. The void burned with war. The Aegis stood at the center like a mountain of steel, its cannons thundering light across the stars. Around it, alien ships broke from the Council's control, rallying to humanity's side. The once united fleet was now shattered, half in rebellion, half in chaos, all of them trapped in a storm far greater than any of them had expected. The Veilborn moved like shadows across the battlefield. Their ships erased everything they touched. Alien cruisers vanished in bursts of silent nothingness, swallowed by dark beams that cut through shields as if they were mist. Panic spread. Fear crawled into every voice. The human in the chamber raised his hand. His voice carried through the comms, reaching every ship, every soldier, every captain. Listen to me. You feared humanity. You hated us. But now, look into the dark. That is the true enemy. Not us. Not each other. If you want to live, if you want your worlds to survive, you will fight with us, not against us. His words cut through the noise like a blade. Captains hesitated, then voices rose one by one. We fight with humanity. Stand with the Aegis. For survival. The fleets reformed. Alien ships turned their weapons not at the Aegis, but at the black shadows. Beams of light and fire erupted from every side, striking the Veilborn ships. For the first time, the galaxy was fighting together. Not under lies, not under fear, but under truth. The chamber shook with every blast outside. Soldiers who had once sworn to kill the human now stood around him, guarding him from the Council's few remaining loyalists. Their voices rose in chants, not of hatred, but of unity. Humanity! Humanity! The High Speaker staggered back, her face pale, her eyes burning with defeat. She had ruled through fear, but fear no longer bound them. Truth did. The human looked at her one final time. His words were quiet, but sharp enough to cut through her soul. This is the end of your lies. You feared us because we never stopped fighting. Now you will see why that is our greatest strength. He turned away, leaving her trembling in silence. Outside, the Aegis charged forward, leading the galaxy's fleets against the Veilborn. Its weapons glowed brighter than suns, tearing through shadow ships. Its fighters swarmed like blades of light, cutting into the enemy lines. But the Veilborn did not fall easily. More ships spilled from the void, endless in number, endless in hunger. Their dark beams struck again, erasing 3 alien destroyers in a single instant. The galaxy's fleets faltered, fear clawing at them once more. And then, the Aegis answered. Its core lit up with blinding blue fire. The ancient ship roared as if alive, releasing a weapon not seen since the old wars. A wave of energy spread outward, slamming into the Veilborn fleet. Shadows tore apart. Black ships cracked and burned, their hulls breaking under the weight of the blast. The fleets cheered. For the first time, the Veilborn were pushed back. But the human's voice carried again, calm and unshaken. This is not victory. This is the first strike. Remember what you saw today. Remember who we are. Humanity does not fight for conquest. We fight because someone must stand when shadows return. His words were carried across every comm, into every heart. Aliens who had once called humanity a curse now whispered a new word, hope. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The galaxy no longer fought against humanity, they fought with humanity. And with the Aegis at their side, the Veilborn finally began to fall back into the dark. Inside the chamber, silence fell at last. The High Speaker dropped to her knees, her staff falling from her trembling hands. Her eyes no longer burned with power, only with emptiness. The Council was broken. Their lies were ashes. The human stood tall, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond the fractured walls. His voice was quiet now, but every soldier heard it. You united against us because of fear. Now you will unite with us because of truth. The galaxy stands on the edge of darkness, but humanity stands with it. And humanity never falls. The chamber filled with silence, then with cheers. The voices of countless soldiers rose together, shaking the walls, echoing into the void. The chant grew louder, spreading across fleets, across comms, across the stars themselves. Humanity! 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 The Aegis glowed brighter, its engines burning like a rising sun.